3 months after our breakup, my ex-girlfriend, Janice Shaw, suddenly called. "Everyone's left the bar, Sincere. Why aren't you here to take me home yet?" My eyes instantly welled up. Fighting back a sob, I asked in a low voice where she was. Suddenly, wild laughter erupted from the phone. She was gasping for breath. "You fool, damn it. I'm playing truth or dare." A sob escaped me. "You can call me anything, Willow, as long as you come home with me." The other end of the line went silent. Damn it, who the hell is Willow? 3 months after the breakup, my illness relapsed. That dream I hadn't had in so long returned to torment me. In the dream, a woman with an enchanting figure would kiss me, sharing the most intimate moments, yet she'd press a gun to my waist. She'd say she loved me, her voice filled with pain. Then, with reddened eyes, she'd pull the trigger. The gunshot would ring out, but the gun held no bullets. And yet, my dagger would unhesitatingly slice across her throat. In the dream, the woman would die, a triumphant smile on her face as she died, smiling as she asked me to take her home. An immense sorrow would wash over my heart, and I'd wake up, gasping as if suffocating. It sounds absurd, but this dream had tormented me for 3 years. The heart-wrenching pain from the dream would linger after I woke, plunging me into the prolonged agony of losing a loved one. For this, I went to see a psychologist, Dr. Miles Corbin. I told him I had fallen in love with the woman in my dreams. Her name was Willow. After hypnosis and sleeping pills proved useless, Dr. Corbin suggested I try dating to see if I could transfer my affections. If not, he said, it might at least serve as a form of abstinence therapy. That's when Janice Shaw appeared. She looked exactly like the woman in my dreams. I too once believed she was the Willow from my dreams. The same eyes, the same voice, even the same nonchalant curve of her lips when she smiled. In a bar, she was leaning in a corner, her eyes hazy with drink. She tugged at the corner of my shirt and asked if I could take her home. That one look felt like a lifetime ago, a world away. I thought my Willow had finally stepped out of my dreams. I took her home and watched over her on the sofa the entire night. But when she opened her eyes and met my mournful gaze, she couldn't help but laugh. Her shoulders shook with laughter. "What? Nothing happened?" A little disappointed? Then, glancing at my waist, she added, "Flash some abs next time. I might not fall asleep so quickly," even though she was unreasonable. A sense of fate made me swallow my pride and start a relationship with her. At first, I was hopelessly in love with her. During blood-red sunsets, I'd anxiously ask her if she would ever leave me. Waking startled in the middle of the night, I'd reach out to touch her neck, only able to fall back asleep after confirming there were no wounds. I poured all the amends I owed Willow from my dreams onto Janice, indulging her endlessly. I cleaned up the messes she made without a word of complaint. When she was hospitalized, I cared for her tirelessly, terrified that if I blinked, she'd vanish like in the dream. She, too, would often gaze at me, lost in thought, murmuring about why she hadn't met me sooner. Back then, I didn't understand the deeper meaning of her words, not until that Valentine's Day date. Janice, who was usually low-key, suddenly arranged a very public date with me, completely out of character. A high-end restaurant. She arrived gracefully, a bouquet in her hand. Her elegant demeanor and striking gaze drew admiring glances from many men. Some even took out their smartphones to sneak pictures. She glanced at the person taking photos, a smirk playing on her lips. "Make sure you get my good side." With that, she leaned in and pressed a long, lingering kiss on my lips. I heard something in my chest thumping. Thump, thump, as if it were about to burst out. Amidst the catcalls, she asked the person for the photos and flashily posted them on her social media feed. Was she finally going to take this absurdly begun relationship seriously? I wondered. However, after all that, she seemed distracted. Faced with my joy and apprehension, She responded perfunctorily, occasionally glancing at her phone. It wasn't until she received a call from a contact labeled "Ah" that she suddenly sat up straight, casting a subtle glance out the window. I told her to go if she had something urgent, but she hung up and smiled at me indulgently. "Spending time with you today is what's most important," she said. As she spoke, she picked up a piece of food and affectionately fed it to me. She probably didn't even realize she'd given me a piece of the garnished lettuce. After feeding me, she picked up a napkin to wipe my mouth. Though my lips weren't dirty, a bad feeling began to creep over me. Sure enough, after this series of intimate gestures, her phone started ringing incessantly, over and over again. Janice forced a troubled smile and then, feigning reluctance, said she had urgent company business and had to leave. I smiled and told her to hurry back. She gave me a complex look, hesitated for a few seconds, then eagerly turned and left. As if possessed, I followed her and saw a handsome man standing downstairs not far away. From his vantage point, he would have had a clear view of Janice and me in the restaurant. A thought sent a shiver down my spine. This whole public display of a date with me, was it all for his benefit? Janice ran off, but as she approached the man Leo Gardner, she slowed down, putting on an impatient air. She said she was on a date and told Leo to say whatever he had to say quickly. Leo looked heartbroken and asked her why she was degrading herself. "Even if I didn't agree to be your boyfriend," Leo Gardner said, his voice pained, "you can't just find someone random to mess around with. Is this how you treat people who care about you?" Janice was silent for 2 seconds. Her silence felt like a verdict against me, confirming I was indeed that someone random she had found. After a long pause, she finally burst out, embarrassed and angry. "How do you know I can't really fall in love with him?" Leo Gardner gave a bitter smile. "Don't you know what love feels like?" With that, he grabbed Janice's collar, leaned down, and kissed her. A deep, possessive kiss. Janice froze on the spot, just for a moment, then Leo pulled back. "Chaos and turmoil, that's what a racing heart feels like. So, Janice, even if I didn't agree to be with you, you can't just find someone random to degrade yourself." 4. At that moment, hiding behind a pillar, I was overwhelmed with mixed emotions. It was only then I realized I wasn't some fated encounter. I was just someone she'd casually picked to provoke Leo Gardner. She hated Leo for being indecisive, so she randomly chose me. She picked me out in the bar, saying that guys like me, who seem cold on the outside, are usually wilder in private. She bet I'd be the type to pick up a drunk girl at a bar, and I really did take her home. Behind the pillar, like a voyeur, I watched them go from a heated argument to embracing and kissing passionately. They were like the protagonists of a tragic romance novel, and I was just collateral damage. A heart-wrenching pain shot through my chest. I decided to break up with her. But perhaps it was an illusion. The suffocating feeling that had pressed on my chest for 3 years because of Willow had lessened considerably. Maybe that was what Dr. Corbin called abstinence therapy. Janice didn't come back late that night. I checked her social media feed. The photo flaunting our love was gone. We met again a few days later. Janice arrived, looking travel-worn, and hugged me as if we'd been reunited after a long separation, then stood on her toes to kiss me. She closed her eyes, as if savoring it. I figured she was trying to taste the chaos and turmoil Leo had spoken of in that kiss. I pushed her away. She averted her eyes in a fluster, a mix of guilt and confusion in them. A dense ache spread through my heart again. This time, I was sure. The suffocating feeling in my chest was indeed fading. Since she had used me first, it didn't seem too much for me to use her as my remedy. 5. In the period that followed, my indulgence made Janice increasingly brazen. She was hot and cold towards me. When she needed me, she'd shower me with affection publicly. Once she'd achieved her goal of provoking Leo Gardner, she'd grow distant again. Only when Leo distanced himself from her again would she remember me, her tool. And through it all, I pretended to be oblivious, humbly and carefully playing the part of her loyal follower. Her friends, Janice's crowd, all knew I was a willing stand-in, sarcastically calling me a doormat, sometimes even forgetting to be discreet around me. At those times, Janice would only symbolically tell them to tone it down. She kept testing my limits, and when she found my tolerance was boundless, her respect for me diminished significantly. And I endured the heartache of betrayal and manipulation, gradually completing my abstinence in the process. I clearly felt that every time Janice, with Willow's face, ordered me around, my attachment to Willow lessened a bit more. I rarely had that dream anymore. The suffocating feeling in my chest was almost gone. I was using this debasing method to continually bid farewell to Janice and to Willow. 6. I thought I was about to succeed. That night, I dreamed of Willow again. It was as if she sensed something and was saying goodbye to me. "Long time no see, sincere," she said. "Are you about to forget me? If forgetting makes you happier, I'm okay with that." In the dream, her shadow receded into the distance, the bloody mark from my dagger still on her neck. I woke up with tears streaming down my face, my heart aching so much I couldn't breathe. As if to save myself, I dialed Janice's number. She said it was a coincidence. She was just about to call me. She said her car had broken down on a country road and asked me to pick her up. I left without hesitation. Only when I got there did I find out she had gone to her hometown to pick up a sick Leo Gardner. Before I could say anything, she preempted me, telling me not to misinterpret the mutual concern between childhood friends. Whether it was to avoid suspicion in front of me or to continue provoking Leo, she chose to sit in my passenger seat, leaving Leo alone in the back. Unfortunately, just as the car entered the country road, it collided with an out-of-control tractor coming from the opposite direction. I thought of Willow's departing figure in the dream, and panic made me frantically wrench the steering wheel. Janice was unharmed. The airbag slammed into me, my vision filled with red. I was trapped in the driver's seat, unable to move. In a daze, I heard Janice's heart-wrenching screams. She was calling for Leo. At that moment, I clearly felt the suffocating pressure on my chest about to disappear completely. My abstinence was on the verge of success. But when I woke up in the hospital, Janice, her eyes red and swollen, broke up with me. She looked at the blood-soaked bandage on my forehead and said with trembling hands, "It was just for fun from the start. How did you take it so seriously?" I was terrified. My voice trembling, I begged her, "We can break up, but can you wait a little longer? Just until my abstinence is successful." I was pathetic and desperate, drawing whispers from the people around us. There was a hint of pity in Janice's eyes, but ultimately, she clenched her fists and fled in disarray. 7. I knew she was scared. I had risked my life to save her, and that was a burden she couldn't bear. But would a playgirl like her really be afraid of trampling on someone's genuine feelings? Or maybe it wasn't fear. Maybe it was because Leo Gardner was injured, and she wanted to wholeheartedly fight for herself for once. In any case, whatever the reason, my abstinence was interrupted just when I was about to succeed. I spent the next 3 months on edge, constantly worried that the heavy stone would fall again. But it came anyway. I had that dream again and woke up abruptly. I curled up in bed, my hand shaking as I lit a cigarette. The smoke spread, a familiar scent from the dream, but the ache in my heart grew more uncontrollable. That's when Janice's call came through, like a lifeline thrown to me. Her low voice, tinged with a hint of grievance, came unexpectedly. "Everyone's left the bar. Sincere, why aren't you here to take me home yet?" That voice was identical to the one in my dreams. My eyes instantly welled up. Fighting back a sob, I asked in a low voice where she was. But then, wild laughter erupted from the phone. Many people were laughing. The previous low, aggrieved tone vanished. Janice was laughing so hard she could barely breathe. "You fool, damn it, I'm playing truth or dare." I felt like a bucket of cold water had been thrown over me. The sadness was jolted, creating an opening, and the suffocating feeling in my chest suddenly eased. The remedy was starting to work again after 3 months. "So," I tentatively choked out, "you can call me anything, as long as you come home with me." The jeering laughter grew louder. Janice's voice was laced with unconcealed smugness. "Are you deaf? Damn it. I'm playing a game. Stop being so persistent." Sure enough, the suffocating sensation grew fainter. I got up and stubbed out my cigarette. "Tell me where you are, Willow. Let me see you one more time." The other end of the line went silent. A moment later, "Damn it, who the hell is Willow?" Following Janice's furious shout, I heard whispers on the other end. "Damn, isn't he Janice's doormat? Why is he calling out another woman's name?" One of Janice's crowd muttered, "Janice, are you losing your touch? He probably only agreed to pick you up because he thought you were this Willow person, right? You should lose this round." Janice, having lost face, gritted her teeth and cursed at me. "Don't think you can fool me by just making someone up. I'm giving you a way out. I've sent you the address. If you're not here in half an hour, don't even think about getting back together." I quickly got in my car and drove to the address Janice had sent. The suffocating feeling wasn't as intense as before, but the stone on my chest still made me very uncomfortable. I knew Janice would try to reclaim her lost face by taking it out on me tenfold later. The more outrageous she behaved, the better it would be for my abstinence. Perhaps this humiliation would be the final, potent dose of my remedy. If it failed, it would mean that Janice, as a remedy, had lost her effectiveness. I'd developed a tolerance. I would need to find a new medicine. 8. The bar was bustling with noise and excitement. Most people were lingering, not leaving, wanting to see the drama unfold, to see how Janice would humiliate the doormat who had called out the wrong name. When I entered, they were checking their watches, timing me. Damn, he really made it in under half an hour. Must have run all the red lights. "Janice is incredible," one of Janice's crowd exclaimed. "Are all guys this shallow nowadays? Do they really only care about looks? She plays him like this, and he still fawns over her?" Janice was still leaning in a dim corner, silent. Shadows veiled half her face, making her resemble Willow even more. The moment our eyes met, a drowning sorrow slowly enveloped me again. Perhaps my unconsciously reddened eyes pleased Janice. She curled her lips into a smile at me. Then she picked up a bottle, poured 3 large glasses full of alcohol, and said condescendingly, "Drink all of them, and I'll forgive you." As she spoke, her face was illuminated by the light. Seen like this, she truly looked as if Willow had stepped out of my dreams. I didn't know why she had come back to me, whether she'd had another falling out with Leo Gardner, or had genuinely realized my good qualities. But none of that mattered. What mattered was that this time, the suffocating feeling was almost gone. The hint of a smile on my lips instantly drew ridicule. "Oh my God, is he clutching his chest in joy? Janice, you should teach us your training techniques sometime. He's so well trained." The words were harsh, but they didn't affect my excited mood in the slightest. I picked up a glass and downed it in one gulp. The first glass, to myself, to my persistence for not giving up easily. A wave of booze mixed with quiet jeers. "Damn, how pathetic can you get? Comes when called, goes when dismissed." Janice let her friends mock me, not only saying nothing but also wearing a smug smile. I took a deep breath and felt the heavy stone on my chest finally lift. So I picked up the second glass and looked directly at Janice. The second glass. To Janice. To Janice, who never gave me a kind word and treated me like dirt. This time the whispers turned into loud, jeering laughter. "Damn, that's too pathetic." "Ha ha ha ha, some people actually like this stuff, Janice. Let me get in line. When you're tired of this one, don't throw him away. Your girl wants a taste, too." Janice frowned slightly and glanced unhappily at the person who had spoken. But she still let me finish the second glass. My chest felt unprecedentedly light, completely light as if I had never dreamed of Willow. I was getting a bit tipsy. I grinned, my steps becoming unsteady. I grabbed Janice's hand and brought it close to examine it. The skin between her thumb and forefinger was soft and smooth, definitely hadn't ever held a gun. Turning it over, there was a faint scar on her forearm. Too faint. It didn't feel right to the touch. Willow's was deeper. The surroundings were too noisy. It sounded like they were saying I was too easy, lusting crazily after Janice's body. Janice, for once, dropped her playful expression and softly tried to soothe me. She said, "You're drunk, Sincere. Don't rush. We'll go home now." Amidst the catcalls, she stood up to help me. But I pressed her back down, my gaze fixed on her open collar. One last confirmation, and then I'd be reborn. Under the disdainful, curious, and suggestive gazes of the crowd, I slowly pulled open Janice's collar. That's right, no mole on her collarbone, and no sign of laser removal. Janice gasped, her voice becoming somewhat coquettish. "Sincere, not here." Amidst the whistles, clarity struck me. Janice was definitely not Willow. As a remedy, she had served her maximum purpose. After this, she would be of no further use to me. I abruptly pulled away and picked up the third glass of wine. Janice finally showed a hint of pity and raised her hand to stop me. "You can't drink anymore. You're drun." Before she could finish the word drunk, she met my perfectly lucid gaze with surprise. I looked at her with a smile. "This third glass, let's use it to commemorate our brief, ill-fated connection." The glass tilted, and the wine slowly spilled at Janice's feet. "Janice, you played the part well, but ultimately, you are not my Willow." As she stared in shock and anger, I let go of the glass. Shards of glass flew, like a shattered, colorful dream. 9. When Janice realized that this Willow person might actually exist, her face turned frighteningly dark. She slammed down her glass and kicked one of the hecklers. "Sincere," she said. "Take back what you said, and apologize to me now, and I damn well won't hold this against you." I glanced at the mess on the floor and smiled at her. "Oh no, Miss Shaw. If you don't hold it against me, you wouldn't be like my Willow." But my Willow, when she holds a grudge, doesn't resort to low-class tactics like throwing glasses or hitting underlings. When she's pushed too far, she doesn't say a word. She just grabs her gun, loads it, and doesn't forget to add a silencer at the end. With that, I formed my hand into a gun shape and aimed at her head. Bang! Veins bulged on Janice's forehead. I gave her one last look, smiled, and turned to leave. The chaos behind me was no longer my concern. I wiped the tears from my face. "Goodbye, Willow. Since you left so decisively, you shouldn't have come back to disturb me, no matter what." Life returned to normal after that night. Willow no longer came into my dreams. When I had nothing to do, an inevitable sense of loss would creep in. Janice, however, did try to get a message to me through someone else. That person said, "I've never seen Janice so angry. She hung up on Leo Gardner, deciding to come home with you. As long as you take the initiative to say something soft to her like before, you'll be in the clear." I immediately deleted and blocked that person. I was indeed in the clear. My days were no longer plagued by that angina-like pain, and work felt much easier. Coincidentally, the theater company began rehearsing a new play, and my co-star was the famous actress Victoria Croft. She had come to the company to hone her acting skills, and they valued her presence immensely, even commissioning a new script tailored for her. But the moment I received the script, a chill ran down my spine. It was a tragic love story of life and death. The male and female leads were from opposing factions, After a period of probing and flirtation, their psychological defenses gradually crumbled. Their true feelings were masked by lies, as they teetered precariously between love and desire. At the final moment of decision, the female lead was the first to shoot the man. That's right. The gun had no bullets. The man's dagger slit the woman's throat. The woman smiled, admitting defeat. "Next life," she said. "Next life you have to take me home." An invisible hand instantly clutched my throat. Sorrow, like a rising tide, drowned me. "This female lead? Is her name Willow Dean?" I murmured. Victoria Croft walked in just then. She strode in from the doorway, backlit, her silhouette edged in gold. A group of people were discussing something, scripts in hand. She gave me a polite, distant nod and then naturally sat down on the sofa beside me. "Willow Dean is a good name. Let's use that," she said. Her almond-shaped eyes, with just a brief moment of contact, gave me an illusion that she had come for me. After speaking, she turned to discuss intently with Mr. Harrison, the director, on her other side, until her assistant brought over fruit tea. While discussing details, she casually picked up a cup and placed it in front of me, again, as if by some unspoken understanding. I stared at her profile, so completely different from Willow's, and gradually became lost in thought, until Victoria's slightly low voice broke through. She said to Mr. B. Harrison, "Well then, let's try a read-through, if Mr. Miller has no objections." With that, she turned her head, her questioning gaze on me. I snapped back to reality. They wanted to rehearse the intimate scene of their final parting. Mr. Harrison wanted to see our chemistry. No matter how good the play, if there was no romantic chemistry, it wouldn't sell. Naturally, I had no reason to refuse. Still, rehearsing an intimate scene on our first meeting was inevitably awkward. Mr. Harrison thoughtfully cleared the room. During this interval, Victoria routinely asked if I had any issues with the scene's intensity. I indicated I had read the script and found it acceptable. Victoria nodded, then began to remove her formal jacket. Underneath was a black, form-fitting shirt that outlined her graceful waist. 2 buttons were undone, the porcelain white of her collarbone contrasting alluringly with the deep black fabric. Victoria looked up as she unbuttoned her shirt. Caught off guard, I was startled by the fervor and determination in her eyes. The legendary thespian had slipped into character with a single glance. The gentle, elegant, and thoughtfully distant lady from moments ago had vanished, replaced by the bold and spirited, fugitive assassin from the play. She stared at me, approaching step by step, ruthlessness and despair flashing alternately in her eyes, finally settling into a look of unwillingness as she slumped against me in a defeated embrace. She spun me around, pressed me against the wall, and searched me from behind in an embrace. Finding no weapon, she bit my back in frustration. I turned my head in pain, and my cheek brushed against her lips. She instinctively closed her eyes and kissed me, chaotically, painfully. My hair, brow bone, the side of my nose, and finally, she seized my lips fiercely. I let out a pained sound, but what came out was a choked sob. "Willow, is it time to make your move?" I knew, if this followed the dream, her gun would be pressed against my waist. Tears streamed down uncontrollably. Victoria, however, lifted her head. She looked at me with focused, deep affection, her thumb gently caressing my face. "To hell with fate," she said. As she spoke, she disarmed herself, tossing her gun into the bathtub. The gun sank to the bottom. Victoria's lips curved into a smile of release and exquisite beauty. Then she tilted her head up and kissed me, indulgently and fiercely, kissing as if there were no tomorrow. Mr. Harrison forgot to call cut for this rehearsal. It wasn't until Victoria abruptly pulled away and cursed at him under her breath that he, as if waking from a dream, applauded. "Good, good." Very good. The emotion is perfect. But Miss Croft, why did you change the script on the fly? Weren't you supposed to shoot, and then Mr. Miller kills you? Victoria reverted to her gentle, elegant demeanor. After handing me a tissue, she began to straighten her shirt. After a moment, she said in a hoarse voice, "That way the heroine dies. It's just depressing for everyone." My hand, wiping my face, paused. I looked at her in disbelief. On countless nights I'd woken startled. I too had harbored such resentment. Resentment that Willow forced me to kill her, forced me to bear the guilt. But such resentment was buried under deep sorrow, seeming insignificant. Sensing my gaze, Victoria turned back. "Am I right, Mr. Miller?" she asked softly. 11. Before I could answer her question, a commotion at the door heralded Janice Shaw's furious entrance. As my ex-girlfriend, the staff hadn't tried very hard to stop her. Her face was terrifying as she grabbed my wrist. "You just called her Willow?" Victoria had just finished buttoning her shirt. "Willow Dean is just an overly dramatic character I play," she said, elegantly extending her hand towards Janice. "A pleasure to meet you. I'm Victoria Croft." Janice kept her grip on me, arrogantly ignoring Victoria's outstretched hand. Victoria frowned slightly and lightly tapped Janice's elbow with her fist. Janice yelped in pain, recoiling her arm and releasing me. "Please show some respect for my leading man," Victoria said, then wiped a smudge of lipstick from the corner of her mouth with her thumb, a mark from my kiss. 12 Janice looked like she was about to explode, but insisted on talking to me. She said she had consulted my psychologist, Dr. Corbin, and knew I was ill. I don't know what Dr. Corbin told her, but her understanding of the situation was somewhat different. She believed I had fabricated a dream person identical to her, named her Willow, and fantasized in my dreams about this Willow being utterly devoted to me, loving me to death, all because I couldn't have her, Janice. She thought I was sick because of her, so there was guilt in her eyes, but seemingly more smugness. "Sincere," she said. "My mistake. I didn't know I would hurt you so deeply." I looked at her searchingly, unable to comprehend where her train of thought had gone wrong. She reached for me, feigning concern. "You used to stroke my neck at night. It turns out it was because you dreamed you hurt me. Sincere, you've endured so much pain when I didn't even know." I pulled my hand away. She said awkwardly, "You resent me, I know, but when you picked me up back then, I thought we had an unspoken understanding that it was just for fun. I didn't expect you to be so deeply invested. If you had shown even a little vulnerability, I would never have hurt you like that." I stared at her face, momentarily dazed. I wondered if my dream Willow, in moments I hadn't dreamed of, would wear the same expression. This dreamlike, torturous love affair was finally revealing its bugs now that I had a moment to breathe. Janice continued her self-persuasion. "Sincere, it's my fault. You even used your co-star as a way to heal, calling her Willow. I shouldn't disappoint you again. Don't be angry anymore, and I won't blame you either, okay?" This was the first time Janice had lowered herself before me. After speaking, she looked at me, full of hope. After a moment of silence, I suddenly laughed out loud. The corners of Janice's mouth involuntarily curved up, but I spoke coolly. "Did Dr. Corbin tell you when I started dreaming about Willow?" She looked a bit lost. "He didn't say," she said, then put on a pained expression. "But we've known each other for over half a year. Have you been in this much pain most of that time?" She was still basking in her self-congratulatory delusion. I calmly pulled out my phone, showed her my appointment records. 3.5 years, Janice. I've been dreaming about Willow for 3.5 years. That damned Willow tormented me for 3.5 years. Thank God I met a scumbag like you who looks exactly like her. I stared into her eyes, enunciating each word. "I used you to get over her." Janice stood there, stunned, her cheeks visibly flushing red. "Don't be angry yet. I said calmly. You know, you didn't exactly lose out. For over half a year, she had me at her beck and call. I was always generous with clothes, money, and gifts, and I even acted as a catalyst for her relationship with her childhood sweetheart, Leo. No matter how you looked at it, she hadn't lost anything. I helped her recall clearly that I owed her nothing, then told her that, rationally and emotionally, she had no reason to seek me out again. This mutual exploitation could be considered an amicable parting. Janice stood there, dazed. I had walked quite a distance when I suddenly heard her laugh, a soft chuckle that grew into loud, wild laughter. Just like on the phone that day. Damn it, so arrogant yet so pitiful 13, the following days were much quieter. The suffocating feeling was replaced by a sense of emptiness in my chest. Fortunately, the play officially began production, and that bit of emptiness was thoroughly thrashed by that thespian, Victoria Croft. She often changed the script unpredictably. A tragic love story designed for maximum angst was completely transformed by her into a tale of unfulfilled longing after bravely pursuing love. She especially went off script during the early stages of flirtation and probing, saying that unexpected collisions were needed to give Mr. Miller a sudden jolt of the heart. She certainly achieved it. Every unexpected line she uttered left me dazed. Mr. Harrison said it looked exactly like being deeply moved. I was finally being slowly moved by someone other than Willow. The slight flush of my earlobes, the tremor that traveled from my chest to my eardrums, I was like a secret admirer caught by Victoria, easily controlled and manipulated by her. At first, I passively accepted these stirrings. Later, Victoria began to demand more. She said she also needed me to give her that kind of unexpected flirtation. Only an equal footing could be truly captivating. So, I looked down at her, puzzled yet serious. You like this? Does this mean you like me? She Lungdrula froze for a second, then broke into a smile. You learn fast. And so we would laugh. Mr. Harrison, somewhat bewildered, would hiss, Are you two acting, or is this real? Actually, whether it was acting or real, I wasn't so sure myself. I just saw that the rim of Victoria's ear had turned red in that instant. This state of affairs bred something called hormones, which permeated the theater daily. Just as we were gradually carrying this state into our off hours, news of Janice arrived again. 14 Janice had been in a car accident. By the time I got the news, her bandages had already been removed. Most of her injuries were minor, but it was said her brain was affected. She was in the hospital, frantically asking for me. Reluctantly, I had to agree to take her call. On the phone, she was silent for a long time, then finally her low, hoarse voice choked with emotion. Long time no see, Sincere. Are you about to forget me? If forgetting me makes you happier, I'm okay with that. Months of abstinence, a carefully constructed mental defense, in that moment, came crashing down. My bag dropped to the floor. I didn't bother to pick it up, just ran out like a madman. Victoria grabbed my wrist, her brow furrowed. This scene isn't over. Next, it's your turn to break the rules. My mind reeled, but I couldn't think. A single thought screamed in my head. Janice is Willow. Janice is Willow. Victoria couldn't hold me back. I rushed to the hospital, straight to Janice's bedside. The bandages on her injured wrist had been removed. There, a deep wound snaked across her skin. This time, it was identical to Willow's. I pulled open her collar. A small mole on her collarbone was just beginning to show. I collapsed into the chair behind me. My eyes met Janice's, which were red and swollen. She said, Long time no see, Sincere. Just that one sentence, and I was certain. The soul within this shell was Willow. She gazed at me for a long time, her eyes welling up. This was her reunion, after a brush with death. There was the relief of having found what was lost in her eyes, but even more, infinite regret for past hurts. She said, Sincere, I had a long, long dream. In the dream, my name was Willow Dean. She looked at me sorrowfully. That wasn't really a dream, was it? Of course, it wasn't a dream. The heartache was so clear, the deep love so profound. It was unforgettable even when hidden in a dream. A dense pain spread through my heart again. All the boundless love for Willow from those nights of startled awakenings came rushing back. It came without reason, yet it was irresistible. I remembered the dagger I had wielded, remembered Willow's triumphant smile. Don't forget me, Sincere. You have to take me home, Sincere. 3 whole years of unanchored longing had now found its place. I thought I was about to rush over and embrace my Willow, embrace that fated person. Although it felt like I shouldn't, the impulse was almost unbearable. Just then, Victoria's call came in. Mr. Miller, would you like to have a private date with your Miss Willow Dean tonight? My Miss Willow Dean. When this phrase appeared, a string in my mind was disturbed. After a month of rehearsals, hearing Miss Willow Dean first brought to mind Victoria's sarcastic remark. She often said, "Someone who loves you would never bear to have you kill them with your own hands." The voice on the phone continued. Mr. Miller, tonight I'd like to discuss the final plot with you. How to change it to elevate the theme of breaking free from the sense of fate. My head gradually cleared. I suppressed the urge to embrace Willow. Directly opposite me, Janice was still murmuring, "Sincere, that wasn't a dream. It was real." The dagger on my neck hurt so much, but no pain is greater than the pain of parting through death. Sincere, I thought, I would never see you again. That sliver of clarity in my mind was again overwhelmed by a suffocating feeling. 2 forces pulled at me relentlessly. It took all my strength not to open my arms to Janice. I think I did the right thing, because the next moment, that man, Leo Gardner, rushed in. He embraced Janice, his voice choked with tears, burying her face in his chest. He was clearly terrified. He said he almost thought he had lost her. He was full of remorse, seeming to have finally seen his true feelings in the face of life and death. He wanted to take Janice to get married. Like a bucket of cold water poured over my head, I was instantly sober. Victoria's sarcastic comment came through the phone at the right moment. How can Mr. Miller tolerate such a cliché plot? I composed myself and smiled. Some truth was about to be revealed. I agreed to Victoria's date. 15. When I fled Janice's hospital room, she was coldly confronting Leo Gardner. Her gloomy eyes and harsh words made her seem like a completely different person from the Janice I knew. The change was very abrupt. I took the opportunity to escape, yet I still couldn't avoid wave after wave of inexplicable emotions. I managed to call Victoria. The moment she appeared, I eagerly tilted her chin up. You said you wanted to discuss the plot. Can we discuss it any way we want? A sparkle danced in her eyes. She smiled. As long as you're willing, I'll play along. And so, for the first time, I kissed her. Dudong actively initiated a kiss with her. I savored the feelings that kiss brought. The Punran Sindon heartbeat, flutter thrill was real. The AE love affection was tender. It wasn't some so-called suffocating feeling. My destiny seems to have been decided by someone else long ago, I said, looking down at Victoria after the kiss. You know that, right? She smiled without speaking. Then after a while, gently wiped the lipstick from the corner of my mouth. Your fate is not for others to decide. What if it's the author? I asked calmly. If I said this world is a novel, would you believe me? Victoria looked at me scrutinizingly for a moment. What kind of things are you thinking? You're not going to provoke me and then abandon me using fate as an excuse, are you? I couldn't discern anything from her eyes, so I resumed my usual teasing. I didn't provoke you. We were just discussing the plot. 16, I took the initiative to end that topic, yet the doubts in my heart had been answered. I was sure I had feelings for Victoria, yet when I saw Willow and Janice, I still couldn't help myself, still felt an irresistible pull. This was unreasonable. I thought, Just as I suspected, my fate was indeed written by someone else. They had set it up. Willow was the destined one. This conclusion wasn't a sudden whim. I had started looking for reasons from the moment I saw Dr. Corbin. A person suddenly appearing in my dreams, a longing that extended from dreams to reality, all of it was abnormal. Until the abstinence succeeded, I thought I had escaped the invisible control. However, then that script appeared. It replayed the scenes, forcing me to relive the torturous love with Willow, trying to regain control over me. To finally verify this guess, I said goodbye to Victoria and went to a monastery, the one that had been frequently mentioned to me recently. The enlightened monk, Master Bodhi, seemed to be deliberately waiting there and proactively asked if I was troubled by love. I went along with it and let him hypnotize me. The dream extended. Sure enough, Willow was in my past life. All the scenes in the dream had actually happened in a previous life. We loved each other but were on opposing sides. Willow, after a painful decision, chose to give me the chance to live, and I died of grief not long after her death. This hypnosis, all the information was telling me that the current Janice was the Willow from my past life. All signs were screaming that Willow had awakened, and we were supposed to rekindle our past connection. Besides these, I saw other things. There were some scenes that had never appeared before, displayed very vaguely, as if something had erased them. I tentatively asked Master Bodhi, "Those gradually disappearing images, are they the path Janice and I were originally supposed to take? Those original settings, because my abstinence actions prevented them from happening, were being erased." Master Bodhi's eyes darted away. He intoned profoundly, "Unspeakable. Unspeakable." What wasn't clear by now, even if he didn't say it, I had already guessed. My life was a novel, or perhaps a play. My joys and sorrows were all at the whim of the author's pen. I was grateful for Victoria's appearance. She led me to question the script, to question Willow's self-destructive suicide that caused so much trouble for others. She led me to mock this damn sense of fate with practical actions. Now, everything was clear. I thought I knew what to do next. 17. That night, Janice was somehow held up and didn't come looking for me again. Inspired, I finally hammered out the final version of the play with Mr. Harrison overnight. The next morning, Janice appeared at the theater entrance, still bearing her injuries. From a distance, tears streamed down her face. She looked at me, haggard yet focused, as if 1,000 words would be inadequate, so she said nothing. I had a colleague give her a ticket for the front row. Today's first preview performance, as if specially arranged, allowed us to relive the hardships of our journey together at the moment of our reunion, attempting to offset Janice's previous harm to me. When the performance began, Janice sat silently in the audience, her demeanor already transformed into that of Willow. So, throughout the entire play, the emotions of sorrow and despair I wasn't acting. When Victoria kissed me, I cried unconsciously. When Victoria described our future, there was no longing in my eyes, only despair. Victoria frowned deeply. She tried, as in rehearsals, to lead me to break through fate. However, amidst my repeated hesitations, she too finally became burdened with worry. Our colleagues around us were shocked to find that the development of our characters in the play was identical to the original script. All the painstaking, spark-filled revisions were completely absent. The entire performance was incredibly oppressive. It came to the final moment. The despair in my eyes finally infected Victoria. She embraced me from behind, intimately searching me, deliberately ignoring the dagger hidden at my waist. She bit me, then closed her eyes and kissed me haphazardly, as if to imprint this feeling into her very bones. At the most passionate moment, a gun was pressed against my waist. "Willow, is it finally time to make your move?" Bang! The gunshot rang out. I swung back and slit Victoria's throat. Blood gushed out. Victoria smiled triumphantly. Sincere, don't forget me. In that instant, dream and reality blurred. Tears streamed down my face. In the audience, Janice also sobbed uncontrollably. I read certainty in her eyes. Though sad, she was certain. Seeing my tears, she was certain that I still loved her deeply, certain that we would eventually renew our bond from a past life. Those shared dreams of ours made every moment our eyes met feel like an unspoken understanding. The ache in my heart almost made me believe it myself. If Victoria hadn't suddenly sat up, 18 Victoria, who was supposed to be dying, after murmuring, "Don't forget her," suddenly sat up from the floor. "Damn it," she said, stretching her neck. "Is this heroine freaking crazy?" She stood up, took my hand, and pulled me up. If she wants to die, she should just damn well commit suicide. Why make someone else bear the guilt of her death? Who the hell is this director? If they can't do the job, they should get lost. The play wasn't over. This was the final version Mr. Harrison and I had agreed upon. A play within a play. The observing colleagues whispered excitedly, leading the way in instilling a new interpretation to the audience still immersed in sorrow. Yeah, why use someone else's hand if you want to die? Isn't that disgusting? It's just moral blackmail disguised as deep affection. And don't forget her. Take her home. What? Is this preparing for a reunion in the next life? So lame nowadays, even dogs won't act in such forced tragedies. Janice's face visibly darkened. She forced herself to remain calm and scrutinized me carefully. She wanted to discern something from my expression. With Victoria's support, I lifted my head. Seeing the wound on Victoria's neck, I disgustedly told her to wipe it off quickly. Victoria said, "You were the one who said you'd never experienced such a tragic, deep love, and insisted on experiencing Willow's selfless love. That's why I cooperated with you in this act." What? Are you Sansi finding fault with? Disgusted with me now? I wiped the stage blood from her wound with a tissue, saying with disgust, "If you don't experience it yourself, how would you know that the one who survives is the most tormented?" According to the script, the survivor not only has to bear guilt for a lifetime, but also compensate for the debt in the next life. It's said that in the next life, she'll still call him a doormat, order him around, and only after torturing him physically and mentally will the heroine regain her memories of the previous life. Then, with the added grace of having saved his life, the male lead will endure his disgust and reconcile with her. After I spoke, I caught a glimpse of Janice clutching her chest, her breathing heavy despite her efforts to restrain herself. That pain, I knew it. How many midnight dreams had it tormented me? Victoria wrapped her arm around my waist. It was clearly her own choice. She didn't fight for their love, didn't even try any possibilities, and just went off to die. I strongly suspect she actually had self-awareness. I smiled at her indulgently. What self-awareness? I guess she probably knew she was no match for the male lead, so she used this despicable method to make him feel guilty for 2 lifetimes even if he won. A total manipulative witch, I smiled noncommittally. That last sentence was pure fabrication on her part, but it voiced years of frustration and grievance. Janice had curled up in her chair, in agony, her shoulders slumped, her silhouette exuding despair. It was impossible not to feel pain, especially after that hypnosis, reliving my past life with Willow. But if I wanted to break free, I had to shed a layer of skin. In the final scene of the play, Victoria asked me, after experiencing all this, "Do you still think my love for you is inferior to Willow's in the play?" I knew she was alluding to something, asking this question for herself. I looked deeply into the audience. Such intricate ties, such a fated urge to rush towards her regardless of everything, made it difficult for me to speak. However, I was unwilling to surrender. Unwilling to surrender to the controller who dictated my fate yet refused to show me even a shred of mercy. So I grasped the lifeline Victoria extended to me. I immersed myself completely in Victoria's gaze, undistracted. It was filled with love. It held my true feelings. So I spoke firmly. To hell with fate. It's just the self-deception of someone indulging in self-pity. I was just watching a drama. Why did you take it seriously? I was just having a dream. I wouldn't take it seriously, Victoria lovingly threw herself into my arms. The closing music played, containing a snippet of an actor's narration. The so-called destined person never exists. If there is one, brave children, it is someone you willingly choose with all your heart. There is no room for even a hint of forced compromise in this. The curtain fell. I saw Janice slowly collapse onto the bench in the front row. Then she was completely cut off, beyond the curtain. 19. The play's first preview was a huge success. Victoria and I would tour for dozens of performances. After that, I never saw Janice again. I think the Willow I once loved deeply was, at least, resilient. Sooner or later, like me, she would gradually find the flaws in that uncontrollable situation. As someone also manipulated by fate, I sincerely wished her an early escape from her shackles. 20. After completely breaking free from Willow, my symptoms gradually improved. It was almost certain that I had finally escaped the pen that controlled me. At the last performance of the tour, Victoria finally, formally, and proactively confessed her feelings to me. Not on stage, nor in the rehearsal hall. In a private setting, she formally stepped out of her character and solemnly asked me if I was willing to be with her. Once again, I saw certainty in someone's eyes, the tacit understanding chemistry from dozens of performances, the ambiguity from countless rehearsals, and those moments of genuine emotion made it clear to her that we were mutually attracted. She looked at me firmly. Sincere, thank you for breaking through the obstacles to come to my side. A ring was held out in front of me. She was full of anticipation. I didn't reach out. Lifting my head, I asked coolly, making me willingly put this engagement ring on your finger. Is this your mission? Victoria stood there, stunned, the ring falling to the floor with a soft thud. The thespian, who so easily handled countless roles, rarely showed such a flustered expression. After a good while, she recovered and then laughed self-deprecatingly. She said, "You're right. How could a male lead who can break free from fate not see through my act?" I didn't speak. Actually, I hadn't known she was a task doer for very long. At first, I only suspected she was related to Willow. Watching her constantly emphasize breaking free from fate, I thought she was some kind of salvation sent from above, until Janice awakened. I saw panic in Victoria's eyes then, a panic that didn't seem like the fear of losing a lover. So, after realizing this was a novel, I had this bold guess. It was merely a guess. My certainty just now was also tinged with a bit of probing. And she had given me the worst answer. The room was utterly silent. The intimate relationship, stripped of its embellishments, looked fragile and hypocritical. Past sweet moments rushed out, slapping Victoria in the face. She lit a cigarette. The smoke made her frown and squint, as if it would draw out tears. I was the first to break the silence. If the mission is successful, what happens? She looked at me for a long time through the smoke. I leave. I go back to my world. Victoria must have been a little scared. Who wouldn't want to go home? She was just one step away from success. She must have been afraid I wouldn't help her achieve it. I picked up the ring from the floor and examined it closely. Our initials were engraved on the part that touched the skin. She had put thought into it. I slipped it onto her finger. Victoria's tears fell. She pretended to be choked by the smoke, covering it up with a sudden cough. "No need to feel guilty," I said, smiling as I wiped the tears from her cheek. "We each got what we wanted." Victoria looked at me, puzzled. Since she was a task doer, I thought she should have known long ago that Dr. Corbin had given me two options back then. One was to use Janice for abstinence. The other was transference of affection. Victoria was just another dose of my medicine. From the moment I saw the script and then met her, I had my suspicions. Since she was conveniently delivered to me, there was no reason not to use her. Victoria understood immediately. After a moment of silence, she suddenly smiled. A couple of chuckles, then she took a deep drag from her cigarette and burst out laughing. I laughed too. She picked up the nearby glass of red wine. I clinked my glass against hers. Pleasure doing business with you, my dear sincere Miller. Especially pleasurable, my dear Miss Willow Dean. The bold and brave girl threw herself into my arms, sobbing uncontrollably. 21. The final performance ended perfectly. On stage, Victoria hugged me tightly for a long time, unwilling to let go. This is really goodbye, my Miss Willow Dean. Leave without worry. I'll be fine. You and Janice, I love neither of you. I will not love what fate arranges, much less love a player who moves me like a chess piece, even if it's for salvation. I am unwilling. To break free from fate, like shedding a layer of skin, is to want my love to be simply for love's sake, for no other reason. Victoria finally let go. I turned, bowed, and took my curtain call. After experiencing two passive, unforgettable loves, in this novel world, I finally had the right to live freely. End